arguments, what we want them to be, so that they're then easy for us to disagree with, right? And hopefully you all are here tonight because you're interested in doing that. I think that's a critical first step. So I just want to thank you all for showing up to do that.
Thank you. There are a couple of questions, actually three, about the same question, but is there a realistic possibility of getting rid of the campus carry bill through legal action or further legislative action? And this was asked in various ways by several people.
Sure it was. Is that your question, Charlie? I don't know on what grounds someone could have a legal challenge at this point. If there's any hope of seeing this bill rolled back, it's going to take significant change in the political makeup at the Capitol. So, who's registered to vote? Everybody? Everybody is registered to vote, right? If you're 18, okay.
Great. I think we heard about this some earlier this week, actually, but the question is, some believe citizens with guns can stop a shooter. Are there events and instances where this has happened locally?
The gentleman in Sutherland Springs was obviously chased by like a neighbor or somebody. Didn't prevent the accident from happening, and we don't know, what might have happened otherwise. But I do want to talk about an event in just outside Denver a week ago yesterday. A man walked into a Walmart and shot and killed 3 people. When shots began going off, a number of other shoppers pulled their weapons because you're allowed to carry. But police say none of them did anything to prevent this shooter. And obviously the high likelihood that a number of customers at Walmart would be carrying weapons did nothing to prevent this man from walking in and shooting people. And police say that when they began reviewing security footage to try and figure out who the shooter was, because he fled the store, it took them 5 hours to ID him because they're having to go through all the footage repeatedly to figure out, okay, that person had a gun, but okay, she wasn't the shooter. Okay, this person, okay, he wasn't the shooter. It took them 5 hours to figure out who it was, so they didn't get the guy arrested until the following day. The idea that the presence of guns or that a good guy with a gun is going to stop something like this is a myth, just like in-person voter fraud.
We must be honest with ourselves when you really speak to people, and I speak to several of our students. I even pose a question, how many of you plan to get an enhanced carry? And I was actually quite surprised. A number of hands would go up. If I had 30 students in a class and I asked that question, about 15 or 20 would raise their hands and they said that they plan to get an enhanced carry. I spoke to a sorority. I didn't really expect many hands to go up at all, but over half of them raised their hand and said they plan to get an enhanced carry. And I asked the question, why? And they said, well, other people are doing it. I guess we need a weapon to help protect ourselves, and so forth and so on. And so I think the message that's getting out is resonating with many of our students, faculty, and staff, just speaking about the university, and many of them believe that, yes, this is a route to go, and this will help protect us if we have a shooter in the classroom. Now, let's be honest, that's a possibility. That can occur. I could be a student in the classroom with a weapon and something go down, and maybe I've had enough exposure to where I could protect myself and maybe protect other students. And there have been occasions, I don't know how often on a university campus, but in our society, that's been exactly the case. But I think we have to be fair with the information that we're getting about the number of accidents compared to really what is more likely to happen, accidents or you protecting yourself in a classroom where someone's entering and shooting. And I think the statistics would clearly show that accidents would be more prevalent and things of that nature. But on that side of the fence, as a person that's handled guns most of my life, we all have to be fair and honest in the sense that, yes, my hopes are, because this law is passed, that if something were to occur, and if our faculty, staff, and students choose to carry an enhanced, that it turns out the right way. But as I mentioned before, I have great concerns, especially when you talk about quick response times and things of this nature, where officers are entering a room looking at 5, 7, 10, 12, 15 people with guns drawn. That could be extraordinarily problematic. And so Yeah, I mean, and I'm really trying to be soft in the way I say that. But we have to be honest on the other side that, yeah, perhaps someone could save someone or themselves in a shooting situation if they have an enhanced carry.
Yeah, I just want to add a little bit.
Just to add on to that, I think it's completely echo what Chief Higgins just said. It's very, it's plausible. Sure, you can think of it in an instance where somebody comes in and there's a good guy with a gun and he protects us, she protects us. What doesn't happen, what hasn't happened on the University of Arkansas campus, at least to my knowledge, is a mass shooting. These rampage shooters we've been warned about. What does happen on the University of Arkansas campus daily are drunken fights, sexual assaults, arguments between roommates who are stressed over a grade that they've gotten on an exam. Now those things will happen. They will happen because they do happen every day. Now they'll happen with easy legal access to guns. And that's the reality of what we're dealing with.
And I could back that up in the sense of the fights that might ensue at a fraternity party or something of this nature. I can have a concealed carry and go to a party and be in that party consuming alcoholic beverages. And we've been in situations where emotions would get high, fights could break out, and things of that nature. You remember the story of my mom? That in that heat of passion, in that anger, if I have that enhanced carry while consuming alcoholic beverages in that setting, then you can understand the risks that are there. Now, some people would say, and make the argument, well, these laws have been passed at other universities or and so forth, and there hasn't been any incident to really speak of as of yet. Well, I still say it's kind of new. I do believe it's starting to sweep across the country, and as more and more people go and get these enhanced carries and things of that nature and carry them on a college campus, you will see statistics grow where there are going to be the mishaps and things of that nature. And like I say, we can only hope and pray that it's used in a way that legislators hope it would be used, and that's to save lives. But I think there's going to be higher numbers on the other side as well.
Just kind of follow up for that. This person has combat experience and knows how to react and how I will react. Can that be said of the concealed carry permits, and what would happen if there was a mass shooting on campus with a person? I mean, by a person with a concealed carry permit.
Like,
Okay, so
is
the
it
first.
okay to conduct a mass shooting if they have to? Is that, I don't quite understand that.
Well, I guess unless somebody wants to clarify the question, I would think that they have combat experience, they know how to use a weapon,
So they might be in a better position to
they're a
stop
better
the
position
shooting.
to, yeah.
If they have combat experience, then I would certainly think that's a far greater background, foundation for this kind of thing than the up to 8 hours, possibly only 4 hours that you only have to do once in order to prepare yourself to get that enhanced license. I don't see how that's sufficient training. I can't imagine the stress of that kind of situation, especially if multiple people have weapons. Yeah, I don't know how that could possibly prepare you.
Anybody?
Well, I would just say, you know, of course, anyone with experience and training will put us in a better situation because they've been in a situation where they've had to perform under stress. Now, when you talk about getting an enhanced carry, or even some that have gone to get their concealed carry, they have not even come even a smidget close to the type of training that you see officers or military personnel go through. And it could be alarming because they go shoot at a target, pass a test, now they're concealed carry holders, and they think that, well, if something goes bad, I can just pull my weapon and hopefully protect my life and others. But it's a lot more complicated than that. How they perceive a threat, what is a threat, and what do you do when your heart rate is very high? What about tunnel vision? What about auditory exclusion? What about implicit bias? If I have a man standing with a gun and a woman standing with a knife, we round a corner just by the way we think. We would sometimes automatically assume the man with the gun is the what? The suspect. but the man could pull the gun in defense of himself or others because the woman pulled the knife. We train and talk about these sorts of things as far as implicit bias and things of that nature, where the general public does not.
Great, thank you. We just have a couple more. This is, do you know if any states have required gun locks on the guns at home? And thank you too for Nicole and police department for handing those out. That's great. Does anybody know?
I don't know if it's required.
I don't know.
I don't know if they require gun locks. There are some states that have safe storage
Yes.
requirements. So you gotta have a gun in a gun locker or a gun safe or some kind of a lock box or something. They don't necessarily have to have a trigger lock on them, I don't think.
Here's a question. Will incoming university students have the option to be matched with a non-gun carrying roommate? If they don't want guns in the rooms, but the roommate does, how will they have?
I think overall, our student affairs, they work very actively with our students. And I'm confident they're going to try to make the best decisions for everyone involved, those that might choose to carry. But here's some, I don't know, some people would say it's actually very good to excellent news. We don't have a lot of 21-year-olds residing in our residence hall. Very, very, very little reside in our residence halls. So that's going to just naturally assist us as far as when you talk about the carry and storing in the rooms. Now, we do have a few, and so I'm sure our Student Affairs Division will work very closely with all parties involved to try to make the best decisions on everybody's behalf.
One of it is true. There are, you have to be 21 to get the concealed carry, but if I remember correctly, there is no age requirement on the enhanced permit, and there are some exceptions where you can be 18 or under 21, but at least 18 and get a concealed carry license. So it is theoretically possible. There could be students who are 18, 19, or 20 and have this enhanced carry permit. I imagine it's probably a small number,
Right.
but it's possible.
Yeah, let me speak to that too. So it may well be that you might be able to match up with a roommate who doesn't want to have a gun in the room with you, or maybe you want to be in a roommate with a gun as well. But we don't have a gun-free dorm, right? And so there's going to be other people in that dorm who may well have guns. So you can't get away from the guns in the dorms. If there's people carrying the dorms, there's guns in the dorms. There's not a provision in the law to let us have a gun-free dorm for students who don't want to be in a dorm with guns.
Great. Why doesn't the university qualify for being a public education for the purpose of excluding guns? So can you have guns in, I guess, the public schools?
No, they're prohibited in public pre-kindergartens and
So I
public
guess that,
kindergartens.
why does the university is precluded from it? Or
The original intent of the legislation was to allow guns on these campuses. So,
And then the final question, and then we'll get to your just closing remarks. But much, if not most, discussion focuses on gun ownerships for personal protection. But due to education by some groups and at gun shows and fake news, etc., some buy guns to protect themselves from government takeovers. Why don't we discuss this more?
I'm not interested in taking anybody over.
Well, I would just say, I'll take a stab at it. You know, there's a lot of information out there. And some people, I say, buy into the myth. They buy into some of the arguments that are out there that you need this to protect yourself. The government's going to take all of your guns, and I think you're exactly right. When our president would make some steps to try to enhance our gun safety in America, then that narrative would go out, and we shouldn't underestimate the power of the business person who is looking at some of that and they're cashing in on it. And the way they put information out is to try to cause a situation that would increase their business and their profits. So I think there's a lot of things in the salad bowl, so to speak, and some people believe it, some people don't. I think there's a lot of misinformation. I do believe they're working off myth and some of that, and so we just got to continue what we discussed today to try to put as much education out there as possible with empirical data and research and good research and that sort of thing.
I'd just like to add briefly that I think that type of argument that you just made is the way that a lot of people read the Second Amendment, right? The Second Amendment exists, period. that's not what anybody, I think, in this room wants to debate, right? It's not about having a gun to protect yourself from government. If that's why you want to have a gun, I don't think anybody on the stage considers that any of our business. Our business is safety, and making sure that that we acknowledge that that right is not completely unqualified. That's.
Thank you. Oh,
So I'm kind of baffled by that argument, generally speaking. If the government wants to come and take your guns away, they got some pretty good toys to come get them. They got Navy SEALs who wear black stuff and come out of the surf with all kinds of machine guns. They have drones that are piloted from 6,000 miles away. They'll vaporize you in your house and you won't even hear it. They've got tanks. I mean, the government wants your guns. They're going to get your guns. And I mean, that's just the way that is. So I think the idea that the government's coming to get you is bizarre, because we're the government in this country, right? He's the government, you're the government, I'm the government. All of us are the government in this country. So I don't know who's coming to take over these people and tyrannize them. The government's all of us in America.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Let's go ahead and have just 1 or 2 minute closing comments, and then we'll end with a few announcements. Greg, do you want to start?
Sure. So according to Gun Violence Archive, this year there have been 52,958 incidents of gun violence, resulting in 13,305 deaths, 27,209 injuries. There have been 623 children, 11 or younger, shot or killed this year. There have been 2,801 children aged 12 to 17 shot or killed this year, 308 mass shootings. There have been 1,743 defensive uses of a gun, where somebody used a gun to defend themselves. There's also been 1,718 unintentional shootings. It doesn't have to be this way. We do have the power to change it. This doesn't happen anywhere else in the world except here. So it just takes all of you contacting your lawmakers and getting involved, backing groups like Moms Demand, and we can eventually see change.
It's a cold Thursday night, and it's been almost 2 hours, and we're standing room only. This is big. You all have showed up, and this is the first step in doing the work. All of the things that Greg just said, if you want to get involved with our particular organization, you can do it from your phone right now. You can text the word READY, READY, to the number 64433, or like I said, find a lady in a red shirt, and she will help you. But in the meantime, thank you so much for showing up tonight and listening and talking with us.
I would like to thank everyone as well. And I'm trying to be a realist about this. The law has passed. It's here. So now I'm going to work very, very hard to try to make sure we improve upon our safety and that we have safety in the forefront. I will avail myself, and my staff will avail themselves to do whatever training that we need to do to discuss how to be safe with this current law as it exists. And so that's my pledge, that I'm going to work with others, as many people as we can. Those that choose to get an enhanced carry, I'm hoping to have conversations with them. I'm hoping to put them in the type of training that we go through so that we can minimize someone innocent getting hurt. And that's going to be my goal moving forward, because we all have to realize the law is here. And of course there's work to be done still, but the way it exists today, my job is to just go out and try to emphasize safety as much as we possibly can.
I just want to thank you all for being here as well tonight. Thank you for listening to the panel, and thank you for your questions. I hope that you've learned something while you've been here tonight. You know, and I would just emphasize that the United States is the only developed country in the world that allows the carnage that we endure year after year after year. And we don't have to live this way. This is a societal decision. And I don't know who in this room or elsewhere made this decision. Like, we don't have to live this way. There's no reason to live this way. We don't have to live in fear of each other. We don't have to live in fear of our neighbors and carry guns against them for any reason whatsoever. We're all human beings, and other nations seem to do just fine without all the proliferation of guns in their societies and the incredible numbers of murders and gun suicides that we have in this country. I mean, literally, they're combat scale casualties. I can't think of the last war the United States fought where they lost 500,000 people in 15 years. But that's how many we've lost in this country, just to gun violence. It's nuts. We don't have to live this way. And every one of us is the government. We all vote. We can elect representatives who think like we do, who want to make this stop. And we can make this stop, but it has to be a decision we all make together that we really want it to stop. And that's all it takes.
Thank you. Would y'all join me in giving Taylor wants to give a thank you gift for our panelists.
We are always appreciative of the extra information and the time that our guests will spend with us. We have a book called Government in Arkansas that has been prepared over a number of years for people to learn about the operations of the state government. And we always like for people who have been with us to have this book to take.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So we're going to end up with a couple of things. You know, I think you've heard some great ideas, some great perspectives tonight. You know, I think the takeaway for me was just, you know, get plugged in and get involved and educate yourself about gun violence and gun safety and suicide warning signs and all of those things. Get involved with some of the organizations that have been mentioned tonight, and we really appreciate it. Also, give your feedback to the Arkansas State Police, and in the brochure that you got, there are some other kind of takeaways that you can do. There's lots of sign-up sheets in the back. There's lots of information that you can take, and feel free to just hang around and visit for a few minutes after that. And finally, we have a 3-minute clip that Steve Boss will do. It's Stevie Colbert. It's a call to action.
Find this, but I don't know how to make it work.
Some nights I have to go to sleep without waiting for Colbert.
Growing place, and sometimes you just don't know what to say about it. For instance, I haven't the slightest idea how to adequately address the attack in Sutherland Springs, Texas yesterday. 26 people, 20 others wounded, 26 killed, 20 others wounded in the First Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs, Texas. People on a Sunday going to love and serve the Lord, gunned down by a madman with a semi-automatic weapon and body armor. Now, we are 35 days, something like that, away from the largest mass killing in American history in Las Vegas. Still don't know why that happened, if we will ever know why that happened, or anyone can ever explain why any of this happens. And everyone's heartbreaking when this happens, and you want to do something, but nothing gets done. No one does anything. And that seems insane. And it can make you feel hopeless. Now, I don't know what to do, but I know that hopelessness is not the answer. You cannot give up in the face of evil. Nothing gets done about what happened in Las Vegas. They can't even pass a restriction on gun stocks, those bump stocks that turn a semi-automatic weapon into almost a fully automatic weapon. That died. No one's talking about that. Right. Nothing gets done to control the guns that kill 10,000 people a year around America, not just in these mass killings. And doing nothing, as I've said before, is unacceptable. But it's unnatural. It's inhuman. Right. It just goes against our nature. We want to fix things. You want to respond to something terrible like this. Not just now, but any time in human history. 5,000 years ago, if your village had a tiger coming into it every day and was eating people, you would do nothing. You would move the village, you would build a fence, or you would kill the tiger. You wouldn't say, well, I guess, someone's going to get eaten every day because the price of liberty is tigers. You take some action. Now, this hopelessness, this powerlessness you feel when nothing gets done is something, as I said, we can't give into. Because I actually think that there are some people out there, some truly evil people out there, who want you to feel powerless just for a buck. Because if you feel powerless enough, you know what might make you feel more powerful? Going to buy a gun. It's a vicious cycle. Violence happens, nothing gets done to get rid of the guns, and people buy more guns to protect themselves, and now there's just more guns out on the street. And yes, this guy wasn't supposed to be able to buy a gun, but he could because they're on the market, these semi-automatic rifles. So what do? If you're not going to be hopeless, but you feel powerless, how do you get the power back? Well, I think there's one power you mustn't ever forget, and that is you can vote. You can go vote. In 2018, vote for someone do something. Because this is an act of evil, and the only thing necessary for evil to succeed is for good men to do nothing.
Thank you. That concludes our program tonight. Thank you all so much for coming.
Hi.
I guess you're going to play that on the cat?
Maybe.
Maybe?
I'll have it on YouTube, I'll guarantee you. It takes all night to do it, this next video.
I didn't use the right term. What is the name of the place now?
FPTV.
FPTV?
Yeah. Usually words for the letters.
I did a program the other day here at the library. I'm even playing it for the last 6 months or so.
Which one?
The one on anarchism?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've seen it. Howdy.
You can get that developed and all like that. Can you put that on the computer?
Yeah.
Okay, Diane wants to see it whenever you get it
They're all
the way ready for it.
YouTube.
Gonna be at the center Monday.
Monday, what's Monday? What are we doing?
Center's open Monday.
Oh, I'll probably be there, yeah.
I can ask her about it and find out more about it whenever you get there with your computer and with your disc, or whatever you call that.
Yeah. Well, I'll try to have it ready by then.
Instead, she can't see real small, like something like this,
No.
but on your computer she can.
Yeah.
I'll tell her when I get home.